Let's go Falcons! We're starting the week off like this. Things are pretty hectic around here. Lots of news is circulating on the web. I'm going to tell you everything in detail, so be sure to click the like button if you want to stay well informed about everything that's happening around here. Now, let's get to it, because things are heating up in Atlanta, and we have a lot to talk about regarding Kirk Cousins and the future of the team. The biggest story of the Falcons offseason continues to be the future of Kirk Cousins. Will he stay? Will he be traded? Will Atlanta find a way to get out of his contract? And now, a new possible landing spot has emerged, one that makes a lot of sense for both sides. We're talking about the Cleveland Browns. The Browns are in a desperate situation. With Deshaun Watson sidelined and a roster full of veterans who want to compete, they need a quarterback who can step in and stabilize the offense. That's where Cousins comes in. A trade to Cleveland would give the Browns a proven signal caller who can keep them in the playoff hunt while Watson recovers. It also gives Atlanta a chance to clear cap space and fully commit to Michael Penix Jr. as their future starter. But let's address the biggest complication. Kirk Cousins has a no-trade clause. He has the power to reject any move, which means he has to be fully on board with going to Cleveland. Would he accept a trade to a team that might be facing a rebuild? That's the real question. However, let's not forget that the Browns made the playoffs last season with Joe Flacco at quarterback. If they believe Cousins can replicate that success, they might push hard to make this deal happen. Now, let's take a moment to look at why this deal could benefit both teams. For Atlanta, the motivation is clear. They need to free up cap space and move on from Cousins to make room for their young quarterback. Keeping Cousins as an expensive backup doesn't make much sense, especially when the Falcons are trying to build around Penix and fix their defense. For Cleveland, the appeal of Cousins is simple: stability. The Browns are in a tough spot, and they need a quarterback who can keep them competitive. Cousins isn't flashy, but he's experienced, reliable, and has put up solid numbers throughout his career. With a strong offensive line and a solid running game, Cousins could be exactly what Cleveland needs to stay in the playoff race. But there's another layer to this story. Reports suggest that the New York Jets are also interested in Cousins. With Aaron Rodgers officially out of the picture, the Jets need a quarterback who can step in and lead the team. Cousins, despite a rough year in Atlanta, is a four-time Pro Bowler and could be an ideal veteran to help bridge the gap for New York. But here's the catch: if Cleveland makes a strong offer first, the Jets might not even get a chance to negotiate. Bleacher Report's Mo Moton recently put together a potential trade proposal that would send Cousins to the Browns in exchange for a 2025 fourth-round pick. Now, some fans might say that's too low of a return for a veteran quarterback. But remember, Atlanta is in a position where they need to move his contract. If the Falcons can get a mid-round pick and some salary relief, they might just take it. And let's not forget, Cousins has history with Browns head coach Kevin Stefanski. Back in 2019, Stefanski was calling plays for the Minnesota Vikings when Cousins put together a Pro Bowl season. If the Browns believe they can recreate that magic, this deal makes even more sense. So, Falcons fans, what do you think? Should Atlanta pull the trigger and send Cousins to Cleveland? Or should they wait for a better offer from a team like the Jets? Drop your thoughts in the comments and let's discuss. So, let's get into it. The Atlanta Falcons are heading into an absolutely crucial offseason. We know this team has some major holes to fill, and with limited resources, they've got to get creative. But here's the good news: the NFL just announced a significant salary cap increase for next season. This gives the Falcons more flexibility than we originally thought. Of course, they still need to make big decisions on Kirk Cousins, Justin Simmons, Mike Hughes, and Matthew Judon. The amount of flexibility they truly have depends on what they decide with those key players. Now, here's where things get interesting. While the Falcons may not be major players in free agency, this cap space opens up another avenue: the trade market. And one name that should absolutely be on Atlanta's radar is Cleveland Browns cornerback Greg Newsome too. Newsome is entering his fifth year, and he's been vocal about his frustration with the Browns after seeing his role diminish. Cleveland is now in a tough spot. They either extend him long-term or trade him to save some cap space. Given that the Falcons need to upgrade their secondary, especially with the likely departure of D. Alford, Newsome could be the perfect replacement. Look, we're talking about a former first-round pick who, in his earlier years, showed elite potential as one of the best nickel corners in the league. His 2024 season wasn't his best, but if the Falcons believe he can return to form with a fresh start, this is a move that makes a ton of sense. Yes, he's set to make $13.3 million in 2025, and he'll need an extension beyond that, but when you consider the kind of talent he brings, it's a risk worth taking. Now, that's just the start of what the Falcons need to do to fix this defense. If we're being honest, Atlanta has struggled to generate consistent pressure for years. They have the fewest sacks in the last 20 years and finished dead last or second to last in sacks 3 of the last 4 seasons. That's just not going to cut it. And that brings us to another potential move, bringing in a veteran edge rusher. 2 names that have been floating around? Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa from the Chargers. Let's start with Mack. This guy has been one of the best pass rushers of his generation. He's set to hit free agency in March, and while he's not the same dominant force he was in his prime, he's still extremely productive. He brings versatility. He can line up in a 3-point stance or stand up and rush. Plus, he's still a strong run defender, which is a huge bonus. The Falcons had success with 1-year deals for Bud Dupree and Calais Campbell in 2023, and Mack could fit into that same kind of role, come in, mentor a young draft pick, and still provide solid production. Now, Joey Bosa is another name being floated around. There's speculation that the Chargers might move on from him to free up cap space. They'd save about $25 million by cutting him. The problem? Bosa has struggled to stay healthy. Over the past 3 seasons, he's played in only 28 games. That's a big red flag. And while he's still an effective pass rusher when healthy, he doesn't offer much against the run, and he lacks the raw power that makes someone like Mack so dangerous. If Atlanta is looking for a veteran to pair with a young draft pick, Mack makes more sense than Bosa. So, what's the ideal scenario for the Falcons? Well, in a perfect world, they draft their future star pass rusher in the first round, bringing Khalil Mack on a short-term deal, and focus on developing their young talent. If that doesn't work, then maybe they go after Josh Sweat and make a more aggressive move. But one thing is clear, this team cannot afford to enter 2025 with the same pass rush issues that have plagued them for years. Alright, Falcons fans, I want to hear from you. What do you think about these potential moves? Should Atlanta trade for Greg Newsome? Would Khalil Mack be a good fit? Or should they just go all in on the draft? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on the latest Falcons news. Go Falcons!